Alright, you guys, I recently purchased a new tent. I purchased the 6 Moon Designs Lunar Solo tent, and you had the option of seam sealed or non-seam sealed tent. And I wanted to get the seam sealed tent because I'm sure, like a lot of people, I'm kind of leery about seam sealing something myself, just because there's just too many variables. So I wanted to get the seam sealed version, but they were out of stock on it, and didn't know when it would be back in stock or anything like that. So I went ahead and picked up the non-seam sealed version, and it's kind of like, I guess I'm gonna have to do it myself. So I got the tent, I went and picked up some seal net and went out, and I'm spackling this stuff on, and it worked alright, but the applicator that you use that comes with the seal net, I mean, it makes it come out very thick, and it's just not easy to apply that way. So I actually went through 2 tubes of the seal net and wasn't happy with it, so I let it dry and I peeled off what I could, which was majority of it. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, there's got to be an easier way. And also, like, for like the little tiny tubes of seal net, it's like $7 or $8 a tube. And I'm like, man, there's got to be an easier way, a more cost-effective way of doing this. So I just kind of done a bunch of research and found a way of doing like my own DIY seam sealer, and it's actually very simple to do. I was kind of scared to do it at first just because it's something I'm making, don't want to mess it up, because then if it rains then I'm getting wet. But I went ahead and did it and seam sealed my tent, and we had 2 pretty decent storms on the Ohio meetup, and it held up great. I'll show you guys some of the materials that you'll need to do this. Alright, you guys, first up you're going to need a container of odorless mineral spirits. You'll want the odorless just because obviously this stuff's pretty potent. They make a eco-friendly version of this as well. I've heard a lot of people say not to use that, so just pick this up in case. Next up, you'll need a tube of 100% silicone. You'll obviously want the clear, because you don't want it having white or some other weird color on your tarp or tent or whatever it is you're seam sealing. So you'll need a tube of this. Next up, you'll need a way of mixing the two. I just have my drill, and then I actually made this. This is just 2 pieces of a coat hanger, and I've soldered them together to go in my drill, and it spins and mixes it up, which you can just use pretty much any way of mixing it. And here's the little foam brush that I'm going to use to apply. You can actually just use this to mix it up as well. It'll work just fine. You don't need a drill. It'll just take a little bit longer doing it by hand, obviously. And that's really all the materials you'll need, other than a container to mix it in. And what I'm going to use is I'm just going to cut the bottom off of like a smart water bottle or something like that. It's better to use a clear container so that way you can kind of see the consistency as you're mixing it, but it's not necessary. So let's add this stuff. I'll show you how to measure it out. It's pretty simple, 1 ounce of mineral spirits to 1 ounce of silicone. Mix it up, and that's pretty much about all there is to it. So I'll show you how to do that. Oh, and I almost forgot, it'll probably be a little easier to have some way of measuring out 1 ounce to 1 ounce. It's not necessary. I'm sure you can pretty much kind of eyeball it, and once you get the mixture correct, you'll see. But I'm just doing it this way just because I'm a little OCD when it comes to certain stuff. But let's get to making this. Alright, guys, we'll kick on the scale. Set it to ounces. We'll set our mixing container on here, and as you can see, that's 3/8 of an ounce, so we'll tear that out. Alright, now we will begin to add 1 ounce of silicone. Alright, we are at 1 ounce of silicone, so now we will add 1 ounce of the mineral spirits and mix it up. Alright, went just a hair over, 2 1/8, but that's not a huge issue. Now we'll mix it up and you'll see the consistency that you should have, and you should be ready to apply. Now we'll check the consistency to see if it's how we want it. We want a little thicker than that, so we'll add a little more. That right there should be about a good texture. You want it about what kind of maybe warmed up honey would look like, you know, a little thinner but still kind of thick. And then you'll just use this, you'll just kind of scrape the brush a little bit, and then you can just go and apply to your seams. Alright you guys, this is just the bag that my tent came in. I actually keep it in a Cuban bag now, but I'll just kind of show you. Here's one of the seams. You'll just take some of this and you'll want to stretch it out a little bit, and then you'll just apply this, just coat the seams up. I mean, you can wipe off any excess. This is a little messy because I'm trying to do this one-handed and hold this. You just work that down into the seams real good like that. And this should dry pretty clear to where you shouldn't really see too much of the silicone. You can always wipe off some of this excess here on the side. Like I said, it's a little messy being as I'm trying to do this one-handed and show you guys. But obviously let this sit out and dry, and you can do a second coat if you'd like. Alright you guys, that's it for the DIY seam sealer. It's like I said, pretty simple to make, pretty easy to apply. You know, a rough estimate is 1 ounce silicone to 1 ounce mineral spirits. Mix it up, and if it's still too watery, you know, add a little more silicone until it gets the proper consistency like I showed you. And you know, just apply, and this stuff will last for quite a while. You're always, you know, have the option to apply a second coat, which is probably what I'm going to do here at some point. I plan on doing a video on setting up my lunar solo tent, and I'll show myself kind of, I'm going to re-seam seal it as well, just because I was kind of rushed by the time I got the tent, and then when we had the Ohio meetup, I had next to no time. I'm out there and, you know, dark, kind of trying to seam seal this tent, but it held up. But I just like to take my time and do a little better job on it. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, and I hope this helps some of you guys. It's can be a little, scary to do at first, but it's pretty easy. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Till next time, hope to see you guys on trail.